Yes, thank you very much, and welcome to our presentation of the DevOps in Switzerland 2025 report. And once again, thank you to Zülke for letting us have this fantastic venue here. My name is Patrick Mathers. I'm co-founder and partner at Vision. We run your application, and if we don't, we should be doing that. We have 45 Visioneers at our offices in Zurich and in Canada, and we are home of Apuyo and also of Servala, the Open Cloud Native Service Hub. And here, may I present directly from the steep cliffs of Nepal, or where did you come from?
Berlin.
Berlin, fine.
Yeah, actually, I just landed 1 hour ago, directly from Berlin, from another conference. My name is Romano Roth, and I'm the Chief of Cybernetic Transformation and also a partner, working now since 23 years for Zülke. And the topic which is very close to my heart is, of course, DevOps, platform engineering, and nowadays, of course, also AI. Yeah, and with that, let's dive in.
Yes.
Our State of DevOps report.
Yes, right. So I'm also happy to welcome Dr. Josef Spillner, who's sitting there in the middle. He's one of the authors of our forewords of the study, and he will also chip in to the Q&As after the presentation. So I'm very excited about that. I guess everyone in here knows what DevOps stands for, and if they don't, we do have a specific section in the report describing DevOps. But we're here now to focus on the study and the results of the study. And if you haven't already read everything in the press, as it's already been written, and I'll start off, and later on, Romano will dive into the deep end, presenting our results regarding platform engineering and AI. So, let's start with the methodology. The survey was carried out between January and March this year. We received 70 completed and 237 incompleted responses. The calculated margin of error is at 11.69% at a confidence level of 95%. This should ensure a reliable reflection of the state of DevOps in Switzerland, and I'm already looking forward to the answers, to the questions Martin is going to ask us afterwards regarding that. So, demographics. Who took part in the survey? As you can see, the biggest chunk of companies are in the industry segment of IT and software development, which is not a big surprise. However, this dominant sector has decreased. It's now at 45%. As you can see, consulting and professional services has risen to 20%, and we believe this is due to the demand for external expertise. And banking and finance is up to 16%, which does show us growing traction in this highly regulated environment. I just forgot to wave to the camera. Thank you. The second question we asked was regarding the organization size. And here we saw that small companies dominate. These companies likely benefit from flatter hierarchies and greater agility, enabling faster DevOps adoption, whereas larger enterprise continues to struggle with scale and complexity. We had a new question this year, and that was regarding challenges that the people who answered this questionnaire faced in their companies. Those are, on the first place, modernizing outdated and legacy systems at 13%, closely followed by resistance to cultural change, what a surprise, at 12.5%, budget limitations, and a complexity of systems and workflows. I think what this does demonstrate is that besides tools and processes, as mentioned before in the talk before, actually the cultural and structural issues have to be tackled. We had another question, new question this year, and this was regarding the order volume. So this was a bit to see and anticipate how good the books are filled. And we're glad to be able to say that 56% said that their order volume was good or even excellent. And 26% were on the challenging or even critical path. So, summary regarding demographics. The DevOps adoption is diversifying across industries, so software and IT, consulting, banking and finance, and the public sector are all represented quite well. Small organizations lead the adoption due to agility and flat hierarchies. Larger enterprises struggle with scaling, hindered by legacy systems and siloed cultures. Top challenges seem to be outdated systems, cultural resistance, and budget constraints. The demand in the company remains stable, with 42% reporting good order volume, while 14% even exceed their expectations. And DevOps is now a strategic lever for modernization. Okay, that word. Beyond tools, it's about aligning people, culture, and technology. No way. So, now, what tools do Swiss teams use? When it comes down to infrastructure, we see Azure has maintained their leadership when it comes to cloud infrastructure, but AWS has declined, and now on second spot we find on-premise private infrastructure. Another drop which we've seen is by Google Cloud, which now has dropped behind Exascale. But what we also see is quite a big other portion over on the right-hand side, which does point to further diversification of the infrastructure providers. One thing which we think we don't see in here yet is a potential shift due to recent US policies. Potentially that will be visible next year. So, when it comes down to production application deployment and management, containers obviously are the backbone of modern production deployment, but virtual machines and physical servers are regaining ground again, which does also point to reliance on more traditional infrastructure. Operating systems. Once again, a big surprise as Linux continues to dominate the primary operating system, and also reaffirming its position as the core of the cloud-native stack. Windows maintains its secondary position. So, and now we come to the database services. Postgres continues to dominate as the most used production database in Switzerland, but MySQL, Oracle, and Redis have caught up with MongoDB for second place. Companies seem to be diversifying their database stacks. CI/CD tools. GitLab remains the most widely used CI/CD tool in Switzerland, but Argo CD has surged, and Azure DevOps has declined quite significantly, suggesting a shift away from integrated legacy pipelines toward more cloud-native modular ecosystems. Infrastructure as a code tools. No big movements here as opposed to last year. Terraform remains most widely used infrastructure as a code tool in Switzerland, but there still seems to be some manual provisioning around, as you can see here by this gray non box here. When it comes down to Kubernetes, we see that it still is a standard for container orchestration, and Red Hat has regained its first place. Strong diversification, once again, due to the big other bar you can see at the end of the chart. We reckon this does point to a mature ecosystem when it comes down to the various forms of Kubernetes. We also asked the people filling in the survey about MLOps and if it's being used. And it still seems to be a niche practice in Switzerland, with more than 50% answering that they're not using MLOps yet. This will most likely change with growing usage of AI beyond experimentation and into production. Observabilities, once again, no big surprises here. Grafana and Prometheus remain the dominant tools, and of course observability is one of the cornerstones of a reliable DevOps operation. Then we also asked regarding FinOps tools, and there we did see some more traction being done. Interestingly enough, homegrown tools have surpassed Azure cost management. It seems that monitoring costs and transparency of platform engineering and cloud-native operations is getting more and more important. And last, we asked about auxiliary backend services. And here, Nginx took the first spot, while Kafka has fallen behind. Once again, we see a big other stack at the end there, and we also find things like Airlock and Cilium, which are point to a higher degree of specialization and a focus on security. All in all, we can say that Kubernetes remains dominant, but with increasing distribution diversity. Terraform leads in infrastructure as a code, though Tofu and Pulumi signal growing diversification. GitLab still tops CI/CD, but GitHub and Argo CD are rapidly gaining ground. Azure leads, but AWS has declined, and on-prem has risen again. Linux dominates in production. Physical servers are making a comeback. FinOps and MLOps adoption is still early stage, but growing. Now for the interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I think I need to wave. Yeah. Good. So this time in the State of DevOps Report Switzerland, we made some deep dives. One of the deep dives we did is into platform engineering. And why into platform engineering? Because platform engineering is the enabler of DevOps. And just that you get sort of the glimpse how that's used. I use usually this picture which we have from Gartner, where you can see we have platform teams, and these platform teams, they are creating inside of an organization or of an enterprise a platform. And this platform is an internal product which is used by the product teams. And the product teams, they are doing DevOps. They are end-to-end responsible for the product that they are building. And such a platform has all of the capabilities that they use, and of course also the tools which are used by the product teams. And by that, the platform team enables the product teams to do DevOps. That's sort of the thinking behind that. And lately, the whole platform engineering was quite hyped. At the moment, it's of course surpassed by AI, which will be the second thing which we will have a deep dive. But now to platform engineering, we asked, is your organization currently adopting platform engineering? And you can see yes, in Switzerland roughly 54% of the teams are using platform engineering. There are also some which are experimenting and only a few which are not doing platform engineering. Now, a second question which always comes up when it's about platform engineering is that are you having or are you developing an internal developer platform, IDP, which, as you could see in before, is exactly that platform that the development teams are using. Now here it is that way that 40% are not developing a IDP. This can also be that they are developing other platforms. That's also quite an interesting thing, and you will also see that later, that it might be that some of these platform teams or some of the people who has responded to the survey are not building platforms for the developers, but for example are building an AI platform or a data platform or whatever other platform. Nevertheless, most of those who are building an internal developer platform are not very surprisingly using Backstage, because that's the open source solution for that, followed by Ops Level, Rody, Cortex. And what you also can see, only a few are building their own or have a homegrown IDP. Then we ask, what is the primary reason your organization is adopting platform engineering? So why are you doing that? And as you can see, enabling team autonomy stands quite out. Then improving developer experience and accelerate innovation. These are the top three. Now, I also want to quickly highlight that one. Standardization and adoption of best practices is not so the case, and also improving security and compliance. Keep that in mind, because we will come back to that. It's quite interesting that those are not so in the focus, which is completely okay answer-wise, but this of course also has some implications, as you can see later. Which of the following platform engineering practices does your organization currently utilize is the next question we asked. And you can see automated environment provisioning is by far the biggest one, then monitoring and observability, and developer support and enablement services. Again, security is low, and also the internal developer portals is not so present. Again, here you can see potentially some of these teams are not building an internal developer portal. They are perhaps building an AI platform or a data platform. Then, what is the impact of platform engineering on your software delivery process? And you can see whopping 87% say it has a positive impact on the software delivery, so they can deliver faster thanks to platform engineering. The next question is, how does your organization measure the success of platform engineering? And here you can see they are measuring it with two of the DORA metrics, the deployment frequency and the lead time. Developer productivity is also measured. Here I would love to know how they are measuring that. I hope not with story points. And the second one is developer satisfaction. And again, here, security and compliance is last. Again, keep that in mind. Then, what are the main challenges you encounter when implementing or scaling platform engineering in your organization? Balancing customization versus standardization is one of the top one. You can see it was before on the lower one, and lack of clear ownership and accountability and budget constraints are the main things where they have challenges. This can be, usually this comes from the organizational setup, where exactly that platform team is located in the organization. So what you can see from a platform engineering perspective, that the adoption is already quite mainstream in Switzerland, with 54 of the organizations have dedicated platform teams. Their use case is autonomy and developer experience. What we can see is also that 40% of these teams don't have an IDP in place. Those who are building an IDP, yet they are using a Backstage. The top practices that they are doing is automation and observability, and the impact is quite clear. So 87% of them report a positive delivery effect. When it comes to measuring, they are measuring the lead time and the deployment frequency, and the key challenges, as said before, are the balancing of standardization and autonomy and ownership. So in summary, when you look at platform engineering, this is now sort of mainstream within the Swiss market. Now, some of you will now say, yeah, but what about AI? Because AI is the big topic that we are having nowadays, and this is also why we asked about how do we do, or how we use AI in DevOps. And the first question is, of course, is your company currently using AI in its DevOps practices? That's the important thing. So what you can see is 1/3 is using it, 1/3 is planning to use it, and 1/3 is not yet using it. So quite even, interesting. Then we said, okay, what are your primary objectives for integrating AI in your DevOps practices? And surprise, surprise, it's automating of repetitive tasks and workflows, enabling predictive maintenance and incident prevention, and improving code quality and testing and debugging. This is not really surprising, because these are also the main use cases for what you can use AI at the moment. At which stage of the software development lifecycle do you utilize it? So when you look at the whole software development lifecycle, from planning over coding to deploy, to testing, to deploy, to release, and to monitor, then you can clearly see it's in the code analysis and review where we are using it. Interestingly, also for architecture and design, and of course in the continuous integration and continuous delivery. Not so in security and compliance. Then, how do you measure the success of AI-driven initiatives? This is quite an interesting thing, because we can see many are not measuring it. So roughly 10% are not measuring it at all. Many are using other measurements, which is also quite interesting. But the enhanced developer productivity and satisfaction is one measurement. They are using compliance and security improvements, interesting, and cost saving in infrastructure or operational expenses is sort of on the 3rd place. Then, how comfortable are your developers and engineers with AI-driven DevOps? And you can see they are very, very comfortable. So AI is nowadays, when it comes to developer, quite widely used. But of course, we also wanted to know, how is your personal perception of AI in general? And this is, of course, quite Swiss. It is cautiously optimistic, so to say. Sort of, yeah, I think it helps, but let's see how that works out. So, in summary, you can see 1/3 is already using it, 1/3 is planning. I expect these numbers will increase next year. The focus area at the moment is, of course, code review, interestingly, architecture, and of course also in the CI/CD. The main goal is automating tasks. There is no surprise with that, and also incident prevention. This is the whole AI-ops thing that we know since years. The measurement is usually productivity and satisfaction. These are the top KPIs. 9% are not measuring at all, and the sentiment is 79% of the developers feel comfortable with using AI. So you can also see AI is now also coming into DevOps. So when we take that as a summary, then DevOps is definitely the standard. Only the laggards are not using DevOps, or they are starting to use DevOps. With platform engineering, we can scale DevOps up. 54% have dedicated teams already, and IDPs at the moment are built with Backstage. AI in DevOps, 1 in 3 teams is using AI already, and when it comes to tooling, then GitLab, Kubernetes and Terraform are dominating the Swiss market. The challenges that Swiss companies have is legacy systems and cultural resistance and the talent shortage. And when it comes to measuring, then we can see we measure speed and satisfaction, but we don't we have some problems when it comes to KPI for AI. When we make an outlook, what we can see in the future, and potentially what we also will have a look at in the next DevOps report, is we want to have a closer look at internal platforms in general, not IDPs in general as a product, and also into AI-augmented engineering, not only the software engineering, the engineering in general. And we will also want to have more questions about the organizational setup and about developer experience. So that's where the focus in the future will lie. And with that, thank you very much.